welcome guys to the fifth lesson of this course, and this is going to be a three-part lesson. So let's switch over to Unity, and first let's start by setting up our animator controller. So go to animations folder, double click on anim to open up the animator window. Now let's start by creating some empty states. So I'm going to call this one run. Now let's create some transitions. So I'm going to create a transition from idle to run, and then one back from run to idle, a transition from run to victory, a transition from run to attack, and another one. Now let's create some parameters. So I'm going to create a new boolean called run, and then create another boolean called attack, then create one more called lost, and then in the last create boolean called won. Now first let's assign our animations to our states. So for run, I'm going to assign a run animation. For victory, I'm going to assign a victory animation. For idle, I'm going to assign our idle animation. And now for the attack animation, we don't have any animation right now, so let's get that. So I'm going to go to asset store, and search for mechanim animation, and get the one by explosive. It's called RPG character mechanim animation pack free. Then click import. Alright, so once the import is complete, let's close our asset store tab. Alright, now go to our RPG character animation pack folder, go to animations, go to unarmed, and then let's change the view to list view so we can easily see our animations. And then I'm going to select this one. It's my personal favorite. You guys can choose whichever animation you like. Feel free to just select any animation like this, or even this one, or if you guys want, you can even choose the left hand animations. For now, I'm just going to select this one and then drag and drop it on my animations folder like this, and then you can simply delete this entire folder as we don't need that anymore. Now let's go to our animations folder and let's rename this to something like punch. Alright, now select our attack state and drag and drop our punch animation over here like this. Now let's select the transition and make sure has exit time is false, and drag this all the way to 0 and drag this to something like this. Keep the transition as small as possible. You can never go 0 or else this will happen, and we don't want that. We do want some kind of transition, but we don't want it to be too much. So usually I just keep it like this, and do the same with all the other transitions. Alright, so once that is done, now let's start setting up our conditions. So here I'm going to set the condition as run equal to true, so it will change from idle animation to run when run is true. And in this one, I'm going to set the condition to lost equal to true, so it will change from run to idle once the user loses the game. This will only happen once the game session is complete. And over here, run to victory when won is true. And for this one, which is run to attack when attack is true, and attack to run when attack is false. Alright, so that is done. Let's go back to our scene. Let's hit play. Okay, first we need to make sure our character doesn't move. So I'm just going to set the speed 0 for now and hit play. Now let's go here and set run equal to true. So as you can see, it changes from idle to run. Alright, next let's do attack. So it attacks. If we do lost and run equal to false, it goes back in idle. And if we do won equal to true, it does this victory pose kind of thing. Alright, so our animations are working. Let's go back to our scene and let's set up our AI logic and then open up my player script. Actually, go back to Unity. We have an error. Go back to our animations and select our punch animation. Go to rig. Okay, go to animation and go to events, and you will see this small white marker. Select it and then hit delete and then click apply. It's just something from the asset that we downloaded this animation from. We don't need that anymore, so we can simply delete it. Alright, so now we should not be getting this error anymore. Alright, so back to what we were doing. Let's start by adding using Unity Engine AI at the top, and let's create a few variables. Public pool active. Public pool is AI. So this class is going to be the base class for both our player controlled character and the AI. So I'm just going to create this variable called is AI over here like this. And now let's create a few more variables down here. Public. Actually, for now we don't need any public variables. Okay, we do need one. Public transform zone. And let's create a few private variables. Game manager. Private nav mesh agent. Private zone scripts. Private float default speed. Alright, I think that's it for now, and let's go to our start function. Inside this, let's do a if check. If is AI, so we are checking if the selected character is an AI or player. So if the selected character is an AI, we will set the nav mesh agent. Over here, let's do default speed equal to speed. Let's go to our update function. So let's do if active, if is AI, else. So if this is not an AI, we will let the player control the character like that. And if it's AI, so let's configure our AI targeting logic over here. So let's check if game manager script dot players in zone dot contains transform. So basically we are checking if the selected character is in the zone or not. So if it's in the zone, do something, and if it's not in the zone, do something over here. If the player is in the zone, we are going to get the closest character in the zone. So for that, I need to create a new function, private transform get closest enemy in zone. And this is going to be a list of transform that we will pass. As if we go back to game manager script, the players in zone is a list of transform. So this parameter is going to be list of transform. Inside this, let's do transform best target equal to null, and then return best target. Alright, now let's do float this smallest distance equal to mathf dot infinity, and then vector3 current position equal to transform dot position. Now let's do a for each loop. Transform potential target in enemies. Inside this, let's do a if check if potential target is not equal to transform. So basically we're checking to make sure that the target that we are going to choose, it is not ourselves, because this list will contain our own transform as well. And then inside this, let's do vector3 direction to target equal to potential target dot position minus current position float distance equal to direction to target dot square magnitude. And here let's do a if distance is smaller than smallest distance, we are going to set the smallest distance equal to distance and set the best target to potential target. Alright, so this will get us the closest target which is in the zone. So here let's go back up, and in this let's do target. Okay, we need to create a new variable called public transform target, and down here let's do target equal to get closest enemy in the zone, and then pass on game manager script dot players in zone. Yeah, we need to provide a reference for our game manager script as well, so let's do that now. Game manager script I'm going to create a new public variable called public float outside of zone range. So this is going to act as a threshold. I will just show how this works in a second. So let's go down here, and I'm going to copy this function, paste it down here, and then change it to get closest enemy. And then instead of list of transform, I'm going to make it player array, as this one is a array of player script. And here we need to simply change few things. So I'm going to do potential, instead of transform let's do player, and over here let's add dot transform, same thing over here. Alright, let's go back up now, and let's do target equal to, actually we can just copy this line and do get closest enemy, and here just pass players. There might be cases where our zone is closer to the character than the target, so for that case let's do an if statement. If vector3 dot distance between transform dot position and target dot position is greater than outside range zone, we will simply move the character to zone. So target equal to zone. Also over here, what this part is doing is, if the selected character is inside of the zone, we are going to find the enemies which are inside of the zone as well. But there might be cases there when there is nobody inside of the zone except us. So in that case, our target will be null, and that will throw us error. So to fix this problem, what we can do is create some waypoints. So if the player is the only player inside of the zone, it will randomly move to random waypoints. So it looks like our player is moving inside of the zone and making sure that nobody comes in. But as soon as somebody else comes inside of the zone, our script will target that player. So here let's do, we need to go to zone script and create a variable called public transform and waypoints. Save it and go back to our player script, and here we can do if target equal to null. We will simply do target equal to zone script dot waypoints random dot range 0 zone script dot waypoints dot length, and at the end let's do nav dot set destination target dot position. Okay, so now let's go over to our game manager script and let's create a new variable called public bool game started, and in update function let's do if input dot get mouse button 0, and if not game started we'll set the game started to true. So basically we are going to set game started to true as soon as the player interacts with the screen. Save the script and go back to our player script, and in update function let's do if game manager script dot game started is true and our character is not active. We are going to set the character as active, so active equal to true. So as soon as the character becomes active, we need to change the animation state from idle to run. So for that, let's create a new private variable called private animator anim. Let's set the reference for that, so anim equal to get component animator, and over here let's do anim dot set bool run to true. Next, come up over here and create a new public variable, public particle system trail fx, and down here let's do particle system dot emission module em equal to trail fx dot emission em enabled equal to true. So by default our trail effects won't be working, but once the player starts running we will enable our trail effects. Next, let's do a if statement. If is AI, we will enable the nav mesh agent, and down here in fix update let's do if is player active and not an AI. So I'm doing this because we don't want our player to start moving before it gets active, and this because we don't need this part to move our AI as it's going to be moving with the help of nav mesh agent. So let's save our script and go back to Unity and select our character. Let's start by changing the speed back to 4 and assign a trail effects, and then go to our trail effects and make sure emission is false. Now select our character again and assign the zone. Now let's duplicate our character and move it down here, and let's rotate it, and this is going to be our AI, so make sure is AI is true as well. Next, let's add a new component called nav mesh agent. Change the speed to 3 and angular speed to 360 and move it up. Next, let's create a new material for our AI, so I'm going to create a new material called enemy and change the color to something like this. Let's assign a material, and let's disable the indicator as the AI doesn't need indicator. And now let's move our character back a bit as well. Next, let's go over to our level, go to zone, and let's create some waypoints. So I'm going to right click on this and click on open prefab asset, and let's create a new empty object and call it waypoints. And inside this let's create some empty objects. These are going to be our waypoints, so I'm just going to randomly move and place them like this. So now we have our waypoints. Next, go back to our scene, select our zone object and click on this lock, so it locks our inspector. open up our waypoints and select all the waypoints and then drag and drop them over here like this. Now let's unlock it and go to Windows, AI, Navigation, click on Bake. Before we hit Bake, select our ground object and make sure it's static or else the bake process won't work. And now let's go back to our navigation and click on Bake. So as you can see, it baked our nav mesh. So let's hit play and see how it works. Boom, there we go guys. Our AI targeting logic is complete. So in the next part, we will be working on creating the punching logic. We will also add the respawn logic and all the other juicy stuff. So see you in that one. Cheers.